Anyway, thank you very much, folks, for listening to me, and thank you, Brother Ali, for me. I appreciate Queer English.
Great, great. How's everybody thinking tonight? Feeling? Think good. Welcome to another Monday night class. We're here every week. Is anybody here for the first time? Welcome, sis. Welcome, brother. Welcome. All right, we're here every Monday night, and these classes are ran by the International Indigenous Society. Our primary objective is to teach our people civics and government, and to employ strategies for us to become a better people, spiritually, economically, socially, in every way that we can think of. And we know that you're a resource as well, so if you have business cards or flyers or anything, come to the front desk, make sure you leave some for us so that we can share with the people at the end when we make our announcements. And we can even put you on the board so that people will know what you do, what services you offer, that sort of thing. Tonight we're supposed to talk about economics, resources, making some money. How many people need to talk about that? Good idea, right? Good idea. For those of you who don't know me, again, I'm the head of the Aboriginal Republic of North America, and I'm not the head as a result of being a monarch. I will be elected out of my position, and then someone else will fulfill this seat at the appropriate time through elections. And I think that we have a good design for our people when it comes to the types of entity that we need for remedy for the situation that has come upon us. When we look at other groups of people, which we should not be competing necessarily with them, ask yourself a question: why is it so difficult for our people to show the level of unity and cohesiveness and structure and advancing economic strategies in an executable fashion where we can see it without being a politician per se? You ride through our communities, and what do you see? Challenges, right? And then you ride through some communities and you don't see those same challenges. There's communities that you can ride through in New York and you see Chinatown, see a bunch of Jewish people walking around. They got Hebrew on the side of their buses. What does that mean? That means that there's a lot of planning going on so that those people can own the real estate in their communities, all right? They can get those Hebrew letters put on the side of that bus, right? They can acquire the capital to have a Chinatown, right? So let me ask you some questions. How is it, or what is it that they're doing that's different than us? What are they doing different? Got some words up here on the board. What are they doing different? What are the Jewish people doing differently than the so-called African American? Go ahead, Arjun.
They're giving no interest loans, according to Donald Sterling.
No interest loans, and Magic Johnson ain't doing nothing for his people, right? That's what Donald Sterling said. No interest loans. Go ahead, Bob. Trust. Put that down. Trust. We don't trust each other. I guess these Jewish people trust each other. They're doing business with each other. They must trust each other. Yeah. Right. So that's some level of loyalty and trust amongst them. All right, go ahead, brother.
They share information amongst each other.
They share. That's the trust factor. Sub-issue of trust is sharing information. And let's say this, sharing viable information. Information that has great utility. That's great. Okay, anybody else? Yes, sir.
I don't want to jump the gun, but I have heard from a brother, and he said that what they do is they populate around the ghetto and they know politics. And usually people that live in the ghettos, they don't understand politics and how it works. So their numbers are added with the people that live in the ghetto, such as Crown Heights and so on and so forth. And when those resources come into the neighborhood, such as money, they show up to those meetings and they're the first ones at those meetings and they actually get the money while everyone else suffers from lack of that understanding how it actually works. So those particular neighborhoods flourish with businesses and such, but the ghettos around them suffer.
Okay. Okay, so they're into politics, census building.
Correct.
Understanding how much funding is supposed to be appropriated through that county, municipality, borough, and from the state to that particular entity, and then finding the political maneuvers to get access to that funding through politicians.
Perfect.
That's wise. That's wise. Peace, God.
They create a system of, let's say, understanding of how they should function as an entity, as a whole, within their community, so that nothing that's foreign to the community can kind of infiltrate it, because they have this like closed network of this is how things are, this is how it has to go. And everyone buys into the premise of the concept.
Okay. System of understanding. We come into our first point. Yes, sir.
Unified under one common cause.
Common cause. Unified common cause. Unified common cause. Okay. Let's do this. Let's address some of these points I have up here, because some of you are already touching on them. And we can ask questions about any group of people based on these principles and see whether they're going to be successful. We can ask questions about your own family and see whether you're going to be successful with these particular highlighting points that I have here. Jewish people and Chinese people have a culture, a system of understanding amongst each other. Okay? Last week, if you were here, I told you I was at a meeting called the New York Hyatt that was a meeting of a whole bunch of conservatives who were sharing their concerns about Western civilization. And I brought the outline from that meeting, where there's a whole bunch of congressmen and senators and a whole bunch of other people there, right? And on the front of that outline, it defined what Western civilization was. Anybody remember what was on that flyer? Western civilization was what?
U.S.
U.S.?
Israel.
Europe? And Israel.
Christians and Jews.
Okay. So you had a whole bunch of Tea Party people, conservatives, and these are people who have access to the appropriations from Congress, and they are funding certain things, and they're all in there to have a meeting. And they see 4 Negroes walking up in there. And they ask us, are y'all sure you're in the right place? You can only get in here through registration. So we had a little bit of confusion in our group, because we had the Ghost was parking the car, and his name was down, but he had told us, no, just give him your name. So we gave him Bushka's name, gave him my name, and they heard Muhammad. They was like, oh, are you really in the right place? So we gave him Ghost's name, and they're like, oh, you're on the registration. Come on in and have a seat. All Europeans in there talking about defining Western civilization, defining Western civilization's greatest challenge, and what they must get back to restore Western civilization. And these meetings are happening all across the country. Why? Because this is an election year, congressional election year. So they have these meetings, And these meetings are about resources and having a system of understanding and accessing those resources, local, state, national. So, Western civilization was defined as 3 socio-political entities and a culture. All right? And Western civilization has 2 basic cultures and a third one that they're struggling with. What are those 3 cultures? The cultures are, they defined it at this meeting as Christians and Jews, which means the Bible is their culture. The biblical American culture. Right? Where do you fit in their eyes? Where do you fit in their eyes? Because one thing you have to ask about culture is, how do you associate with every other group of people? There has to be a system of association, business-wise, culturally. How do they associate with you from their biblical understanding? They have a out front association with you, then they have a coded association with you. Quiet, in-house talk. So we're in their house where they have their talk, and their little feathers are a little ruffled. But when you go to Jewish culture, Africans or black people are the cursed seed of Ham in the Talmud. That's Jewish Talmud. You ever walk through Williamsburg? You see them out there? How do they look at you? Hey, what you doing here? Woo, 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 woo. Brother, what you doing out here? So they're into their Talmudic history. They're into their biblical history. The biblical history says Ham cursed. The Talmudic history says Ham cursed. The biblical history says Canaan. In the Masonic history, Shem and Japheth are in the Scottish Rite and the York Rite rituals. Ham was removed. Any Masons in here? Y'all want to give up that secret? So, biblical history starts with Judaism, which they define as Western culture, and then it moves to Christianity. Okay, folks, do I even need to go there? Those white folks believe in Caesar Borgia. You know who Caesar Borgia is?
Painting of Jesus?
14th century European who was used to paint the pictures of Jesus in your great-grandma and your grandma's house. It's okay. Color don't matter. That's what they tell us, right? But psychologically, the white image of God has had adverse effect on indigenous people. This has been tested. Go online. What's the name of this video online where they're testing the little black children with the black dolls and the white dolls? Anybody seen that?
Yeah.
You saw that? Okay, you saw that. They put the black doll in front of the child and the white doll in front of the child and say, which one is ugly? Which one do you like? Which one is pretty? Which one do you want to look like? And these little 3, 4, 5-year-old children are saying the black doll is ugly. I want to look like the white doll. Where did they get that from? These children never been to school. Where did they get that from? They get that from society, the images. And you don't think they're absorbing those things. So if they absorb them, how much of it have you absorbed? How much of it have you absorbed? That's an honest question for a family, an individual, or people who are in a counterculture. So we have to look at these two. If this is their culture, and we are adopting this culture, is it counterculture? What about it will hold your family together? I'm not saying you can, I'm just saying ask the question. Then you have the second culture in America. Because these people right here, they're against gay people. They're against liberalists, leftists. You ever hear this talk? Politically? Socio-politically? Democrats and Republicans. Isn't it interesting that black folks are Democrats now, and post-Civil War, the Democrats were pro-slavery, and the Republicans were anti-slavery? How did you get Democrat? Anybody know? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. After the fake Wall Street collapse in 1929, the staged Wall Street collapse in 1929, and the Great Depression, black folks start moving from down south more up north to the industrialization, and with the lack of jobs, Roosevelt, after he snatched all the gold, started implementing these social programs for benefits. And black folks said, we in Detroit, we in Chicago, we need these services. Let's vote Democrat for Delano Roosevelt. And even though more white people are on welfare than black people, our people have kept the attitude of entitlements. And entitlement attitude is against these people's ideology of free enterprise. Some of us are in the free enterprise, right? That's cool, we got a business. But what comes with this attitude is civil rights. So civil rights has become a culture. How so, Brother Ali? Civil rights has become a culture. Let's put it over here. Because people use it to implement cultural identity. The word is minority. Got it? So check this out. Check this out. This is real slick. This is real slick. Black people, indigenous people, original people, could not get citizenship after the Civil War, so they offered us a second-class citizenship. 14th Amendment. Artificial person. Changing the hands from immediate ownership, private ownership of some of us, from the hands of the Southerners, into federal ownership. Big arguments over that. But it created something that had never existed before. It created the ability for foreigners who were non-white persons to begin to immigrate into this country. And it created the ability to make a business or a corporation a citizen with similar protections to a human being. Those two things. So now, 20s, 30s, 40s come, you standing up for yourself, and the government is saying, damn, what are we going to do to stop these states from discriminating against these Negroes? We're going to start writing laws to protect them as 14th Amendment citizens. Because we don't know any other way to implement that on the state level. Because they're not operating the protections. The states aren't operating protections. So, we marched, some people got killed, and we got civil rights. And then other groups came and said, we want civil rights too. So gay people can be minorities and get civil rights too. You know what civil rights are? Do you actually know what they are? They're rights for people who don't already have natural and political rights. Let me explain that to you. The free white men in this country, those Bill of Rights, those 10 bills that came with the Constitution, freedom of religion, freedom of due process, right to not be legal search and seizure, they get those naturally and politically. Pay attention to this, if you never heard this before, if you didn't take our law class and go deep into this. But if you, under the identity of minority status, African American, whatever, want to access that Bill of Rights, you have to get it through a Supreme Court case holding, and it's called selective incorporation. Now, all this affects economy. I'm going to show you how. Selective incorporation means the Supreme Court wants to end segregation, so they pass a case The Supreme Court wants to implement your right to no illegal searches and seizures. You don't use the Fifth Amendment, you use the 14th Amendment due process clause. This is how they try to trap you. With no identity, a given identity. So now, if the Supreme Court hasn't passed selective incorporation, not just for